So I've got this many pens that I found in a couple of different locations in my house. On my desk where I eat dinner, by my couch where I spend most of my day these days, at my, where else? In my pockets, in other areas where I empty my pockets and put them in a pile and forget about them. So I'm just deciding now to collect them all and put them away or decide what to do with them. This was a Parker 21 that I bought recently, and it's one of those rare Parker 21s that isn't cracked. So this will go in my for sale bin. It's one of these pens that if it hasn't cracked by now, it probably won't crack for the rest of its natural life. It's a lovely pen, but it will be for sale. So the sale pens go over here. This, I forget why this exists. I think this is a pen I had put a sack on, even though there was a crack in the threads of the pen, which, if I remember correctly, exist somewhere, but I don't see them right now. So maybe it wasn't cracked, but anyway, it's meant to be for sale. So I'm gonna, hello, I'm gonna put this Monik. I keep saying your names slower than it should go. I think it's supposed to go Monik, not Monik, but Monik. What syllable do I emphasize? The ma or the nick? So this is a really nice pen for writers or drawers, and it's for sale. It's going to be more than it cost. It has its original price stickers still on it, but that's for sale. Would you like to join me, Monik? Okay, this pen. This is another one that is for sale. I don't know why it ended up in my, not where it belongs, but it ended up for some reason in my piles of pens I was using. Maybe I just wanted to test it out one last time or show to someone. So Monik, this would be a lovely pen for a calligrapher. It's a little sharp, but it's a nice springy nib. So that's for sale. This, why is this here? No, it needs a cap, but it will be for sale. So I'll put that over there. Okay, another time. Okay, this was a Parker 61 that I recently bought. It's missing its little arrow, but I rather like it anyway. But I don't think I need to keep it, so I'll put it in the sale bin. Okay, this one was in the sale bin, and then I took it out because it wrote really, really well. And the reason that I probably had not sold it yet is someone took a knife and carved the name off with violence. So I suspect this pen, after the person that owned this pen, I don't know that this is true, but I'm going to come up with a plausible story. Mrs. Smith was married to Mr. Smith, and at one point, Mr. Smith just went a little bit too far, and Mrs. Smith got out the butcher knife and sliced him into ribbons and put him down the garbage disposal. Then she took that same knife and went to his desk and found his pen that he loved more than he loved her in her mind, and she took that same butcher knife and carved his name off. So somewhere there's an unsolved case of Mr. Smith gone missing, and the police are looking for that one piece of evidence to put Mrs. Smith behind bars where she belongs, and it's this pen, because this has the same serrated edge, forensically proven that she sliced him to pieces. They found 2 or 3 bone fragments that had this little marking on it, and that matches perfectly with this, and they can find out exactly who did the deed. What do you think about that, people? So this is for sale, but it comes with that, but it has a great nib. So what am I going to do with it? I think I might just leave it here on my drawing desk. I sometimes have pens like this that have some flaw that a pen collector wouldn't like, and I put it in a drawer that says artists, and these are pens that I would sell to an artist or a student who doesn't have a lot of money to spend, and they normally don't care about things like that. But I really like the story I just came up with. I think that's a keeper. So I think I'm going to keep this up here at my desk. The pens that are in my drawer here tend to be pens that have those sorts of problems, like this, the crusty broken edge, and because it's hard for me to sell them, but they're really too good to just take the nib out and scrap them. This pen is perfectly good, and I can sell this one to someone who wants it to draw with. I think this would be a good pen for an artist. And I've sold many of these that are missing the little back bits. But when you put the cap on the pen and you're using it, no one would know. Okay, see you later, Monik. So this is for sale. I really like these caps that these pens have with the stripes. Okay. What the hell is this doing there? Oh, I know. This is a pen that I use for drawing. It's a some European pen of some sort, and I think there might actually be ink in it, so I'm just going to keep this one until it runs out of ink. I don't know what kind of ink is in here, so rather than contaminating my bottles of ink, I'll just keep using it. Okay, this one. Oh, I remember this one. This one has a really, really fine nib on it. But it's not unlike other pens I have just like this that have a nib like that, so I can sell this one. It's funny though, you know, I'll put a sack in a pen, whether it's new or a sack I've had for a long time, and I'll do something with it and I'll say, oh my God, I really like this pen, and I'll start drawing with it and writing with it, and then I forget, is this one that I want to sell, or is this one from my collection, or what? And I get confused, and I end up having to do this thing all over again, except not online, not on camera. This one is a keeper. It has that cap I like, but this is kind of a rare cap, so it's gonna be kept. I don't think I have a duplicate of that cap, so that, and I think it's full of ink, so it's going in my pens that are full of ink. This is certainly a keeper. This is an original Parker 51 demonstrator made by the Parker company. And so I don't know why I had this out. I think I was explaining to someone how a vacuumatic system works. So that's a keeper, and will go in my collection where it belongs. Okay, this one. Why is this one here? The gray color is one of the rarer colors, and I think it's kind of rare because it might have been ugly, and it also uglier than other colors. Yes, it does match your battleship or your destroyer or whatever U.S. Navy boat you might be on, but the plastics seem brittle, so they're often cracked and broken. So I'll probably keep this just because I kind of like it. For its rarity, I guess. Another Taperite. Is this a keeper or is this a seller? I know I've got others of this exact pen, so I don't necessarily need this one. And usually what I do is I will take pens that are identical and then pick the one that I like the most because of the way the nib is writing, or it might be the name engraved on it or something, and I'll keep that one and sell the other ones, but I can't remember now what this is, and so we'll just keep this at my desk. And so the pens that I think are full of ink, I'm just going to leave with ink and use them, keep using them. But there are pens that I can put back in the shelves to offer. Why is this nib all bent in the wrong direction? And this is really a nice rounded nib. This would be good for a drawer or a lefty. I do have a customer that writes very vertically. This would be good for her as well. This is a Parker Demi. So this is one of the relatively rare pens. It's thinner. I mean, it looks essentially just like this, except it's thinner. This cap doesn't fit on a standard 51. So late in Parker's career, they made a Demi in the aerometric fill, and that's what this is. And they're relatively uncommon, so that'll go back in the collection. This is the pen. No, this is not the pen I got from Cedar Bylard. I thought this was the one I got from Cedar, but it is not. I cannot remember Oh, I remember. I did get this recently on eBay, and it has this great prickly, tight nib. And it's very similar to the one that I did get from Cedar, which is this one, except this is a stately covered nib rather than the other one, the standard nib. This is full of ink, so I'll continue to use that one. This one is full of ink, and I'll continue to use this one. This one should have a cap that has a clip that is silver, not gold, because that would match this. But this is how Cedar sent it to me, and I may keep it this way just for the moment. I may swap it out at a later moment, but Cedar is a YouTube friend of mine, and it's a gift, so I try to keep gifts if I can. This one is a relatively new eBay purchase. It's another stately, but it's one of the short ones with the short little clip, which I find really sweet. And this one is empty now, so I'm going to just keep it empty. Flush it out with water here. Just any leftover ink should be out of it. Well, clearly not. This is dirty water more than ink, but there's at least the ink that's in the sack is removed. There might be some residual ink on the nib. This one can go in the collection. Again, this is one of those short caps that I didn't have a cap like this before, so now I do, for what it's worth. Okay, this one is this out of ink. If it's out of ink, I can retire it. This is one I recently got, and it's one of those that has a really nice cap. These caps often get very worn, very like this. This is a worn version of that cap. This is the other pen I got from Cedar. So getting one that's in perfect shape is not easy. This is the other one I got from Cedar, and this has a crack in the barrel, but I put the section back in and shellacked it in, so at least I don't think the crack is going to get worse using everyday pressures. So it will survive. That has ink in it, so I'm putting the pens that have ink in them I will use until it runs out of ink, and then I'll flush them out and retire them or fill them back up again and use them. I haven't decided. It depends on how I'm bonding with that pen. Okay, this is another one with a relatively rare cap again. This is an aluminum cap with this pattern, and that was another cap I didn't have. And I can't, or maybe I did have it. Maybe this came from my parts box. But I think this pen does have ink in it, so I'm going to continue to use this one. Parker 51. I got into a very short 51 mood about a month and a half ago, and the mood can last a long time because the ink stays in the pen for a long time. Because of its Johnny one-notedness, you fill it up and you've got a long time before it empties. And but This is a relatively rare clip because it's chrome. Early clips like this were usually gold. So even on the Sterling and the Lustraloy pens, they weren't often silver in color. So this is rare and it's full of ink, so we'll keep it there. This I think has red ink in it. Yes, it does. And I was using this for a particular job the other day, so I filled it up and used it. So I will continue to do stuff in red ink with this pen. I'm suddenly realizing there's a theme going on with a lot of the pens that I have. Many of the pens I have gray or black barrels and metal caps. I guess I must be in that sort of a mood. I didn't realize that until I looked at the pens that are filled with ink, and I guess I'm in that kind of a mood. Part of it is because, some of the only pens that I'm able to find on eBay, which I understand well enough these days, are Waterman Taperites or Waterman caps, pens from the 40s like this that have a standard nib. Because they've been relatively new to my collection or to my hands, they may be in my shop rather than my collection. They're in my mind, and that's what I use. So as you can see, this version of this cap is really worn down. So this is a pen that a pen collector wouldn't be interested in, but a pen user wouldn't mind at all. Well, many wouldn't mind. Some would. Has a beautiful, tight, accountant-like nib. I don't know if the nib says accountant, but it should. No, it says rigid, which is essentially an accountant nib. And you can see that even though it says rigid or firm, they often said, because they have the Waterman genetics in it, they are somewhat flexible. So that goes in the continue to use pile. This one I filled up recently, and I brought it out sketching with me with one of my urban sketcher friends who bought a very similar pen recently, but it's a Moore with a big number 4 nib, I think. And why is it skipping? Is it out of ink? I don't think it's out of ink. It might be, though. I'll find out later. It's a Waterman 55, and it's hard rubber and very worn, very brown, and it's almost smooth, even though originally this would have been chased, meaning a little, I think, chased. Is it chased? Maybe this was a smooth one. It looks like it's almost been sanded down. But there's a warmth to this pen that's I don't want to say magical, because it isn't magical. There's a warmth in material. The hard rubber has a heft to it. It's heavier than plastic. It smells funny. If you don't like it, it smells funny. If you like it, I want perfume. Any of you people out there, a perfumer? I want perfume that smells like hard rubber. Kinky. No, I do. I'm not a perfume person, but the smell of suede or leather-bound books or hard rubber, I find very butch. What is this doing here? Another Waterman Taperite. I don't know, does this have ink in it or not? It has ink in it. Why is it skipping? Tell you what, I'm going to empty it of ink. I'm emptying it in my bottle of whatever mixture. Normally don't do that, don't mix inks, but the bottle I'm using here is the one that I usually just use to dip pens, and that's fine. But sometimes when you mix inks that are from different companies or even different colors made by the same company, they don't get along with one another. But you know, if I'm just dipping just to test out a nib using this sort of mixture, it's like leftovers in your refrigerator. It's not a gourmet meal, but you get a little bit of what you had yesterday and something you had 2 weeks ago, and just scrape off the green part of that piece of bread and eat the rest of it, and you have a meal. And that's what this is like. And sometimes some of my ink does have some green stuff growing on top. If that's the case, I throw it out. But so I'm going to say that I'm going to put this back in my collection. I think that's from whence it came. But again, this is a pen that I have a number of copies of, so it might be for sale. Okay, we're coming down to the wire. This pen, why is this out? Oh, I remember. This is a pen I put together. I found the parts and put it together. So it's newly assembled. There might be, these parts may have come from 3 or 4 different pens, and now they're in one pen all by itself. And I didn't mean, I don't think, to keep it in my collection, because I probably have 1 or 2 or 3 of this pen, but because it was newly assembled, I thought, well, before I sell it, let me run it around the block a little bit. It's a Schaefer senior sized balance pen, and I find them sometimes perfect, but most of the time I find almost any senior size pen a little tiny bit too big. I like a pen that's a little thinner. This one, why is this one here? Another really, really fine nib. I know I have a duplicate of this, so this will be for sale, but it has ink in it, so I'm going to continue to use it. And maybe if I remember, I'll put it in the sale bin later. Someone recently sent me an email about my pens and how he recently bought a Taperite, having seen me talk about them for so long and with such fondness. And part of my love of Taperites is the fact that they're a flexible version of a 51. And as a copy of a 51, they sort of fail, but as an alternative to a 51, they're really quite interesting because of their subtle, I mean, their line that they make is no different from this one, probably, but it's just neat. And he loved it. He absolutely loved it. And he wanted to buy, pretty please, he said, or please have me sell him some taper rights. And he mentioned something to the effect of he could buy from other people, but the pens I sell have soul. And that was very sweet of him to say. And I don't know if it's entirely true, but I think any pen has a soul, but I at least try to point it out to the person who's buying it. Whereas on eBay, you get occasionally someone like Rob Morrison will show how the pen writes. And other people, do the writing test too. But most people just have a beautiful picture of the pen, beautiful close-up of the nib, beautiful picture of the engraving, blah, blah, blah. But there's no sample of what it can do. And so this action, this is the soul of the pen, I think. And I love exhibiting that. This one is missing its lever. I know that, you know that. And I had this on my desk with all the other pens that were missing levers, and I ended up just putting them back in my to repair later drawer. But I'll never repair them. I'd have to find a pen just like this and yank the lever out. And these pens are almost indestructible. You won't find one that has a cracked section or a broken end. So chances are, I'm not going to break a perfectly good pen to get a part to fix a perfectly good pen. I'll just leave it like it is. I can fill this with squeeze the sack with a toothpick. And this one I did fill up recently, and I like writing with it, so I'll continue to write with it. The most recent pen from eBay is this one, and it's the levered brother. This is the Castrati brother, and this is the one with the lever. And for some reason, every once in a while it skips, and I don't understand why. See, why is it doing that? And that, and that, and that. I have a feeling that it feels more like it's clogged than it's than it's coming away from the feed. There's a certain kind of a dryness that it has, but it doesn't seem to be clogged. It's very strange. Sometimes pens just don't want to work. And sometimes for me, the only fix is taking this nib out, putting a different nib in, swapping them with another number 3 or whatever this size is, 3 wall nib, and it works perfectly. So I don't know what the issue is, but it's a mystery, which I will solve at some point in my life. It is now empty of ink, so I think what I'm going to do is just put this back in my collection. I probably have a duplicate of this exact pen, and this pen is not it. There's, up at the top here, The one on the right has a horizontal line that shows where the end of the pattern is before it gets to the smooth part of the gold. And it has it here and here and here. This one doesn't. So they are different models of the same pen. Same pattern, same size. They're just different models. And I'm wondering, if I saw these two side by side at a pen shop in 1928, could I see that other one? And the clerk says, "Why, yes, sir." What do you think? Do you like the one that has the lines going across or the ones without the lines? What is your opinion? And the clerk, who's getting paid minimum wage, doesn't care one bit about the frickin' line. But he says something like, "Oh, sir, I think the horizontal line going around the pen creates a certain tension between the pattern and the open area. I think that it's really a beautiful design idea. This one is lovely as it is, has this slightly feels unfinished. This has a finished look to it." "Oh, yes," I say, deciding on this one, because what a stupid idea that was. So anyway, it's like, I often wonder if I took a time machine and went back into 1929, some shop that sold pens, and suddenly I see the first version of this thing. All the pens up to this point were flat on the top. And then I see this thing that looks like a cigar. And I think, oh my God, I love that. It looks like my cigar. Or it looks like that device my wife uses from time to time when I'm out of town. I like that. Did I say that this was safe for children? So, but I'm wondering, would I just jump at the chance to buy the cigar shaped thing, or would I stick with the tried and true flat top version? Would I buy the metal overlay pen, or the metal pen versus the hard rubber pen? Or would I try this newfangled plastic that's also coming out, the brightly colored thing? Or would I think they were too garish? It's really, I don't know what I would do. And I wish that, I'm sure somewhere in 1929 there is a diary written by someone who loved to write and loved to buy pens. He wasn't a collector, but he was a writer, and these pens were just tools that he'd use, and he'd, buy this one or that one. And I wonder if somewhere in his diary he said, "Dear diary, just bought this cigar-shaped Schaefer, and what a joy. My wife loves it too," he might say. Or her diary might say, "When John isn't around, I use his pen for my pleasure." Your thoughts? Write your answers below. I'm almost done. Pens in use, pens out of use, pens to go somewhere else. This is a pen that I put this is a nib that I bought in this pen, I think. And it was rather than a Waterman nib, it was a 19th century dip nib, which I've made now a dip frankenpen out of, which I may use for my calligraphic work, so that pen will stay here. This is a early sleeve filler by the Paramount Pen Company, and it's a lovely little harbor thing, and that will now go, how about right there? how many of these did I buy recently? I know I bought another one. This is one that I bought on eBay. It was missing its lever, so I didn't get it for as much as it would be if the lever was there. I put a lever on it, a nickel lever, using the Pierre Gustafson way of do no harm repair. But if someone eventually buys this pen and wants to put a sterling silver lever in it, they can. They first have to take off the outer lever, and they have to, well, my lever I put in can just come out. It's sort of held in by the grace of God, but it's functional. But they have to take this off. They have to take off what's left of the sterling silver box, take a sterling silver box and lever that's complete and not broken out of another pen. So essentially, if there was a pen that had this entire part missing, they could maybe take the silver off of that pen and take that lever and jump through those hoops, but I'm not doing that. And I have this filled with ink, and this again was, I hadn't used silver, or I used to carry these around with me a lot, but I hadn't used them in a while, and just the extra weight that the sterling overlay gives this pen, it's a completely different writing experience than if this pen was this one. The extra added weight just makes it balance in my hand differently, makes the pen hit the paper differently, makes the muscles in my hand have to work a little bit more maybe. I don't really quite know, but it's really neat to experience the difference between this pen and one that doesn't have the sterling on it. And this, I don't know what kind of sole this pen has, but it has it. There's a sole here. And this is one that's full of ink, and I'm going to continue to use it. So all in all, I've got maybe 15 pens that are full of ink that I'm going to continue to use. I have these, which I will put back in my collection. And I've got these that I will sell. That will go in my sale bin. So that's what I should do every single day. When a pen runs out of ink, rather than automatically filling it, I should say, okay, do I want to rotate this pen out and try a new one? Go back into a vacuumatic theme for a while? Do I want to, do something else? So that's what's neat about having a collection that you can actually use, is to pick the motorcycle you'll drive today, or will it be the Bentley or the old Cord? Will it be the, will I wear this tie or that tie to the board meeting? So they're fun, and I go through moods, and they accentuate or contrast with my mood, or they might make my mood better. They might make them worse. I'm using a pen that has a really tight, firm nib. I may decide I'm in a tight, firm, angry mood, and I'll write those checks to that nasty electric company that seems to think I owe it money. Anyway, what are your thoughts? What pen, if you had a time machine and went back to 1929 and you had flat tops and streamlines and hard rubber and sterling and gold fill and hard rubber and plastic, what what do you think you would have been attracted to in 1939? 1929, I'm sorry, 1929. You just lost all your money in the stock market. You're about to jump out the window and you suddenly look across the street you, and decide you're on the second floor of your office. You realize too that you're not going to kill yourself by jumping out the window. Did I say I wanted to sell this pen? I suddenly don't. It's really a wet. This will be used for me somewhere else. So I'm going to continue to use that one. But, you know, you're on the second floor windowsill. You're going to jump and you realize, oh, this probably won't kill me. And look, the pen shop is open. Let me run over and see what I can find. And you might decide that even though you can't buy that Schaefer Streamlined pen, that Streamline pen will say to you, look how new I am. Imagine what will happen next year and the year after that. So rather than defenestration, why don't you stick with us a few more years or decades and find out what happens. Or you might say to this pen, that is the fuggliest thing I've ever seen. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. I'm going to take the elevator to the 29th floor and do it the right way. Goodbye, cruel world. Bye. Oh, Jimmy decided, Jimmy, I'll take the colorful Bakelite pen. Okay. Bakelite was a particular brand name for a particular kind of plastic made by the Bakelite company, but I know that other companies had different names for their plastics, but I know what you mean. I don't know of any pen that was actually made of actual Bakelite, but I don't mean to be a nerd. I sound like a nerd here, but I know what you mean. You mean, and I use the term Bakelite to mean any plastic, old plastic. But it might be a nice blue one like this. I don't know if you can see. It could be a. I don't have that many. Could be this one that's marbled, but I don't have any at my desk. I don't have any real colorful. Well, I got this one. This would certainly, a pen like this would certainly jump out at me like, oh my God, this is so great. But the Parker's version of the Schaefer Streamline is really lame. They just slightly tapered it and it just didn't, it wasn't enough. They didn't really figure that out until the Vacuumatic era, where they tapered it as much as they could and capped it off with a clip. Anyway, see you later. Thanks, Jimmy. Bye, everyone.